Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 251 based on novel. So let's start. On the huge platform, Xiao Yan and Luo Jin stared at each other with big eyes and small eyes. Their faces were all confused. The scene in front of them really caught them off guard. Old gentleman, you. Hey, Mr. Xiao Yang, you stay in my Liu's house for one night and have a banquet for one night. It can be regarded as 200 spirit stones per person. Flying animals in Huayuan territory escort you on the way. 300 spirit stones per person. I see that you and I have fate. That's why I'm in charge to exempt you from the cost of food and accommodation. The remaining cost, 300 spirit stones per person, is a total of 2,100 spirit stones. Not waiting for Xiao Yang's words to fall, Liu Wei is a pure smile on his face. Hearing this, Xiao Yang was speechless and looked at Luo Jin. The latter also joked and smiled. Although the old man meant to deceive people, it wouldn't be a big deal if he really said it. At least he didn't deliberately harm them, otherwise they wouldn't stand here indifferent. Seeing that Luo Jin ignored him, Xiao Yang was even more helpless. He didn't give it first. In terms of this quantity, 2,100 spirit stones, which are all of his ring, are only about 1,800. How can he afford this pitiful old man? Turning around to look at the little doctor fairy, Xiao Yang found that the latter was looking at himself with a smile. He seemed very comfortable with his eating. This embarrassing situation is really difficult to deal with. Unexpectedly, even the little doctor fairy doesn't help him now. As for White Birch, in the Liu family these years, he eats and lives at will. He doesn't have spiritual stones at all. How can he afford it? There are 2,100 spirit stones in this ring. At this time, Muling, who was at the back of the group, suddenly came forward and handed out a ring in one hand and put it in Liu Wei's hand. This scene was like sending charcoal in the snow, which immediately attracted Xiao Yang's grateful eyes. When the latter saw this, he smiled humbly and turned back. On his side, Ju Tai looked at his disciple and couldn't help but wonder in his heart. After receiving the money, Liu Wei immediately returned to normal and ordered the number of spirit stones in the ring. Then, with a dry smile, he led Xiao Yang and others to the place where they needed flying animals. High-level flying beasts are different from those ordinary flying beasts. In contrast, they need quiet cultivation. Although they provide help for humans, humans also need to use a lot of resources to provide them with cultivation. It is precisely because of this mutual understanding that the two sides will always be in peace. Otherwise, even the gentle warcraft and the wild nature in their blood will never make them obey human beings at ease. This time, Xiao Yang and others want to rent a wind vulture. This guy is the same family as the griffin and has a mild temperament. However, unlike the latter, the wind vulture is better than the griffin in speed. Therefore, among most families, the wind vulture is the first choice for long-distance flying animals. However, when Xiao Yang and his party came here, they learned from the manager that there was only the last flying beast at the level of Huayuanjing today. Unfortunately, another person chose this flying beast first. Since the other party has chosen first, it is impossible to recover even if Liu Wei comes forward. Since he is in business, the first thing he needs is fairness. If Liu Wei takes back the right to use the flying beast for Xiao Yang and others, his reputation outside the Liu family will be greatly affected. To the surprise of Xiao Yang and Luo Jin, the person who won the right to use flying animals before them was the moving woman they had just glimpsed. It's her. With the leader's guidance, Xiao Yang looked up. At the moment, a woman in a long blue dress was standing in front of the huge warcraft creeping on the ground and seemingly sleeping. Her attractive red lips pursed slightly, revealing a satisfied radiance. Well, it seemed that she was aware of Xiao Yang's eyes, and the woman immediately turned her head. The moment full of fierce look in her beautiful eyes was fixed on Xiao Yang. For a while, an indifferent temperament that refused to be thousands of miles away immediately came, which made Xiao Yang and Luo Jin's faces slightly changed. The woman's appearance was very young. A clear and moving cheek seemed to be carefully carved. A pair of beautiful eyes as dark as a deep pool glittered with fierce luster, which made people dare not look directly at it. I frowned, and it seemed that there was a cold and killing air between her eyebrows, which made people dare not be light. Although the concave convex and charming body was wrapped under the long skirt, it also made people feel hot. Even with Luo Jin's stable state of mind, I was quite excited to see this woman today. Just then, a cold hum of resentment suddenly broke out behind me. Xiao Yang's two bodies suddenly excited, and two brothers immediately returned to God. At the moment of their rising, they touched their noses with their hands, and looked at each other. Two people were all old faces. Once again, two people came forward and bowed to the woman. "Miss, I don't mean to offend you. I just want to ask, can you transfer this flying beast to us?" "No," she said coldly. The woman swept Xiao Yang's body and glanced at the little medical fairy behind them. Then her toes gently touched the ground, her delicate body turned over lightly in the air, and then she stood steadily on the back of the flying beast. "Miss, go." This time, without waiting for Xiao Yang's words to spit out, the woman standing on the back of the flying beast gave an order, and the flying beast immediately spread its wings. After a few seconds of stagnation in mid-air, she jumped into the sky and flew out of the canyon. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang was also helpless. On one side, Liu Yue looked at the woman who got up and left, and looked at the wind vulture beast that quickly disappeared in sight. As soon as his eyes turned, he quietly put away the Naji in his hand. "What should we do now? Without this flying beast, we can only choose other slower ones." In the back, the great ape in human form scratched his head, looked at other flying animals in the distance, and glanced at his mouth, with a look of disdain in his proud eyes. Even these low-level warcraft are despised by him, not to mention Xiao Yang, but there's really no way. I'm afraid it's the only way to use this for the feelings of Xiao Yixian and Muling. Alas! He sighed helplessly, but at this time, Liu Changsheng, walking from a distance, turned his eyes and said, "In fact, there is another flying beast in Huyuan territory, in fact, in my Liu family, there is also a flying beast with strength above Huyuan territory, but..." At this time, not far from the rear of Xiao Yang and others, Liu Changsheng spoke slowly with some hesitation. "Changsheng, what are you doing?" Hearing Liu Changsheng's words, Liu Yue immediately understood what he meant, even if he couldn't help scolding the latter. "Why, you still have flying beasts in Huyuan territory, but why did you say that just now was the last one?" Glancing at Liu Yue with a light frown, Xiao Yang could realize that it was unusual. Then, his eyes returned to Liu Changsheng. He must know something from him. "Mr. Xiao Yang, my Liu family does have another flying animal, but this flying animal stopped carrying pedestrians many years ago." Sighed, Liu Changsheng ignored Liu Yue's stern eyes and said to himself, "Oh, but why? Is it because you are too old?" If so, he can't ask for anything. An old flying beast is like a twilight old man. They need and deserve respect. It's just because that guy is really naughty, even the old man can't control him, but also because his father once had unkindness with my Liu family, we have kept him until now. Mr. Xiao Yang, it's not that the old man is unwilling to help you, but because no one can control this guy. Liu Changsheng's words haven't been completely spit out yet. Liu Yue interrupts them with a word. The slightly dry words also reveal a bit of helplessness and bitter smile. The strong man who belongs to the source territory has no choice but to take a flying beast at the level of the source territory. If it is spread, it will make people laugh. Oh, there's such a thing. You can't even control the old gentleman. When he raised his eyebrows, he didn't expect that Liu Yue, a strong man in the source territory, could not restrain a flying beast. No wonder he would deliberately stop Liu Changsheng just now. I'm afraid it's hard for anyone to publicize such a shameful thing. Alas, at first, the little guy was gentle, but when he grew up, the hostility in his blood could no longer be suppressed, which led to a great change in his character. No one could help him. With a helpless sigh, Liu Yue's heart is particularly reluctant to give up. After all, a flying beast that changes the source territory has great benefits for a trip. He has raised him over the years, and his family has wasted no less resources. If it weren't for this guy's ancestors, he might have to drive him out of Liu's house. Oh, so it is. Hearing this, Xiao Yang suddenly realized. Liu Yue is right. There are indeed some Warcraft with special blood in Warcraft. After adulthood, the blood in the body will wake up. While leading to the improvement of his cultivation, some may change his character. The hostility originally restrained in the bottom of his heart will gradually be reflected with the adulthood of Warcraft. Obviously, what Liu Yue said belongs to the latter. In that case, please bother the old man to take us to see him. Although Liu Yue has told the reason, it is for this reason that he raised Xiao Yang's interest. Warcraft with special blood is a kind of Warcraft with high status in the world of Warcraft. It is difficult to tame nature, but if they can tame it, Xiao Yang believes that their next journey will be much faster than originally expected. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, Liu Yue was stunned at first. He had planned to persuade the former again, but when he thought that the spirit stone in his hand had reached his mouth, he swallowed it back. Then he asked Liu Changsheng to lead the way. Xiao Yang and his party followed him and went to the deep valley again. This time, the party went through a tunnel and entered the mountain of the canyon. Soon, they saw the flying beast described in Liu Yue's mouth. Inside the huge cave, the space is particularly wide, with a length and width of hundreds of feet. Looking up, the dome overhead is actually a huge patio. The sun falls from above and lights up the whole cave after several refractions on the rock wall. Around the cave, near the wall, you can see countless abandoned spiritual stones. These spiritual stones are piled up here like a mountain, but the energy has already been absorbed. At the first sight of seeing these spiritual stones, Rao Shi's state of mind and the muscles on his old face can't help pumping. For the Liu family, so many spirit stones are comparable to the profits of the family for several years. However, they have nothing to do to support the giant beast in front of them. For such a scene in front of them, Xiao Yang and his party couldn't help showing surprise on their faces. Unexpectedly, in order to support a flying beast, they consumed such a large number of spirit stones. Then, the eyes of several people present fell on the giant beast lying in the middle of the cave and covered by the sun. The flying beast is also very huge as a whole. Its feathers show a color like bright red blood. Against the sun, with the slight fluctuation of the giant bird's body, it looks like a burning flame from a distance. The giant bird's eyes were closed, and its golden feathers were thrown back from the corners of its eyes, which virtually made it more domineering. What surprised Xiao Yang most was that on the crown of the giant bird, a bunch of golden feathers rose high and burst into flame like light under the sun, swaying slightly, which made people feel more real. This is Blood Flame Bird. Is it a blood flame bird? When Xiao Yang and others saw the beast on the first day, they immediately recognized the identity of the latter. The blood flame bird has a very high status in the Warcraft community. At the peak, even the Qinghuan family should give them 3 points. Unfortunately, the blood flame bird family has declined. The blood flame bird has long disappeared on the mainland, but I didn't expect to see it here today. Moreover, the other party is still a flying beast. If this is known by the ancestors of the blood flame bird, I'm afraid it's angry to jump out of the family grave. Buzz. When Xiao Yang and others called out the name of the giant bird, the latter's tightly closed animal pupils opened instantly. The scarlet eyes like blood were filled with a ray of gold. The fierce and murderous eyes crossed Xiao Yang and others and fixed on the giant ape behind them. Roar. Where did the monkey come from? Dare to call my uncle's name? At the same time when the blood flame bird roared, a strong momentum and pressure swept out from its body, forming an invisible wave, which was forced to go straight to Xiao Yang and others. Your tone is overbearing and tight. Your blood flame birds were really brilliant at the beginning, but you have long been lonely. Your glorious era has passed. Therefore, please take back your pride. Without waiting for Xiao Yang's hand, the great ape immediately jumped forward and stood in front of Xiao Yang and others. As soon as his body shook, the strong breath in his body immediately swept out, and resisted the oncoming air wave. Boom! The aftermath swept through, but the whole mountain trembled, and many flying beasts and human strongmen outside were frightened. You want to die. At this time, The blood flame bird of the cave *** was angry because of the angry drink of the giant ape. The huge body that was lying on the ground suddenly shook, the wings opened, and a hot hurricane swept through the cave. The sand and stones flew in the cave, and countless abandoned spirit stones were wrapped by the hurricane and hit Xiao Yan and others. Kanyang flame. With a roar, the blood flame bird's beak immediately ejected a raging flame. The flame covered the stones and immediately burned the stones brightly. The hot flame wrapped each stone like a meteor shower. Break it for me. The great apes in the sky were not afraid at all. They immediately covered their fists, waved their arms, and accompanied by the shrill fist wind, smashed all the flaming stones shot from the face. Bang! Then, however, a flame-light column passed through the space, smashed the last stone and hit him hard at the same time. The terrible high temperature burned the cloth on the great ape in an instant, and the skin of his whole body became scorched black in the blink of an eye. The terrible flame was still destroying his body. I don't know the height of the wild monkey, get out of here. With the sound of cheering again, the flame-light column falling on the great ape suddenly became stronger, and then there was a bang, which unexpectedly drove the great ape out. Whoosh, whoosh. However, the blood flame bird didn't seem to want to stop here. When the sound broke through the air, several fire plumes shot out and chased the giant ape that had been blasted out. Ding ding. But then, with the shadow flashing, all the broken fire plumes were blocked down. They looked up. Xiao Yan was standing in the void, holding a black ruler and staring at the giant bird in front of him. Those just now are even greetings to you. Next, I just hope you can cooperate with us. Xiao Yan opened his mouth lightly, turned his backhand, and the Xian heavy ruler in his hand was included in the ring. Human. Do you want to meddle in this business? In the face of Xiao Yan, a pair of animal pupils of the blood flame bird immediately showed the color of fear. Naturally, he could feel that the cultivation of human beings in front of him had reached the source state, but he could not compare it at all. However, from Xiao Yan's words, he can hear that the group of humans in front of him obviously came to seek his help, but in that case, Xiao Yan will never kill him, not to mention Liu Yue's presence, he has nothing to fear. He is our friend. If you want to hurt him, I will stop him. Xiao Yan's tone was still plain, but he gradually attached a touch of coldness in his eyes staring at the blood flame bird. Shua. Then the next moment, the huge body of the blood flame bird suddenly disappeared into the void. Almost at the same time, in front of Xiao Yan, a huge animal claw suddenly appeared. In the blink of an eye, it tore the void and grabbed Xiao Yan's body. If this blow falls, I'm afraid it will end in serious injury with Xiao Yan's physical realm. However, the result was that when the animal claw crossed the void, it didn't touch anything. What? Disappeared? How could he? In the empty void, an unbelievable cry of surprise suddenly came out. You mean to say, at my speed, how can I avoid your attack? As a heterogeneous species, the blood flamebird family itself has unique advantages in speed. Coupled with perennial cultivation, in terms of speed, even in the later stage of the common source environment, it has been able to compare with the speed of the strong in the source environment, not to mention that the blood flamebird has reached the peak of its cultivation in the later stage of the source environment. According to common sense, with his speed, the strong who return to the source environment have no chance to escape if they are not careful. But now, bang! Xiao Yan raised his right leg, and a blow from top to bottom suddenly fell. Then, the emptiness that was originally empty suddenly sank, and a huge body suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Then, the huge body of the blood flame bird was buried under the rock under the cave with a loud noise. How possible? Until now, the blood flame bird still couldn't believe it, but Xiao Yan was too lazy to pay attention, stood in the void, looked down at the blood flame bird deeply buried in the gravel, and slowly said, Now I'll give you two choices. First, follow us and take us to the far south. Second, I'll call you and listen to me and take us to the far south. Human, don't you? Bang. However, before the retort voice of the blood flame bird was completely spit out, the fierce bombardment was a sudden fall from above. The strong force buried the blood flame bird's body as deep as the earth in an instant. The whole mountain was shocked, and two clearly visible huge cracks immediately split symmetrically from the patio, dividing the mountain into two. Such a burst of action made Liu Yue and Liu Changsheng couldn't help swallowing saliva. This guy. It's too cruel. Xiao Yang's doing this will only make this guy more violent. It's impossible to listen to him. Moreover, in case something happens to the blood flame bird, that. At this point, Liu Changsheng couldn't help turning his fearful eyes to Liu Yue. If something happened to the blood flame bird, they were afraid that the Liu family would be in trouble. Bang bang bang. In the sunny cave, Xiao Yang held a claw of the blood flame bird in her hand. When she waved her arm, her strong strength leaked out. The latter's huge body was smashed horizontally by Xiao Yang like a dead object, which also led to the whole mountain leaning towards both sides, and the empty cave was completely exposed to the sun. The merciless smashing lasted for nearly an hour. The blood flame bird had been smashed and his consciousness was about to collapse. But from beginning to end, this guy insisted on not willing to cooperate with Xiao Yang's requirements. For such a stubborn character of this guy, even Xiao Yang was helpless for a time. Unexpectedly, this guy would rather die than surrender. Maybe it was because he knew he would not dare to kill him, so his attitude was so firm. Liu Yue and Liu Changsheng sighed when they saw this scene, but fortunately, the life of the blood flame bird was not threatened. They didn't care about anything else. As long as the blood flame bird doesn't die, it doesn't matter how Xiao Yang deals with him. Anyway, the spirit stone has been obtained. Xiao Yang has the right to help them repair the hairy bird. Naturally, you can't kill, but if you don't do so, the beast will not cooperate obediently. When he was anxious, Xiao Yang suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his mind. Then, a joking smile appeared in the corner of his mouth. Damn beast. Still don't cooperate. The words full of rage jumped out of Xiao Yang's mouth. It can be seen that the anger in his heart at this time was so smashed one after another. This guy was still unwilling to give in. It's really hard not to start life. Boy, if you have the ability to kill Grandpa, otherwise, Grandpa, I will make you pay the price. The blood flame bird roared with his last strength. Compared with Xiao Yang, his heart was really angry. Since you can't kill you and you don't cooperate with me, there's only one way. Lao Yuan, come and hold him down for me. I'm going to pluck the hairy bird today. Roar. With a low cry from Xiao Yang's mouth, the scorched giant apes behind the crowd suddenly roared. Their bodies shook and turned into bodies in an instant. They waved their arms. Their powerful power was as powerful as heaven, breaking the mountains and stones on both sides. Then their huge bodies jumped forward and covered the sky above them in a moment. The great ape grasped the blood flame bird's claws tightly with one hand, and smashed it mercilessly with the other hand. Bang! The powerful power poured out madly, and the body of the blood flame bird was flattened by this powerful power, and the huge body was buried in the gravel again. Without this hair, what's the difference between you and a chicken? Bang! With a low roar, the great ape hit the body of the blood flame bird again, making a dull loud noise. The powerful force made the broken mountain shake violently again. At this time, the blood flame bird also completely lost any power of resistance, and even it was extremely difficult to speak. In the distant void, Liu Yue and others have already retreated from the war zone. At the moment, they are also looking at the burst battle in the field. Their faces show worry and comfortable expressions from time to time. The blood flame bird has not only done nothing in his family these years, but also consumed a lot of resources of the family. If it hadn't taken into account his ancestors, Liu Yue would also like to beat this guy. Now when he sees this look in front of him, as long as the blood flame bird doesn't die and suffer some pain, it's nothing to suffer some skin trauma. From the beginning to the present, although the attacks of Xiao Yang and Tongtian giant ape seem extremely fierce, they only teach them a lesson by virtue of their physical strength from beginning to end, not to hurt their lives. The resistance of Warcraft is much stronger than that of ordinary humans. This is something everyone knows. However, before starting, Xiao Yang seems to forget that although he is human, his physical strength is much more terrible than some Warcraft who are good at physical strength. Then, Xiao Yang asked the great ape to lift the blood flame bird. At this time, the latter's head was already dizzy and almost wanted to lose consciousness. It was precisely because of Xiao Yang's deliberate reservation that he didn't make this guy faint. Xiao Yang stood in the void, and the human physique was in sharp contrast to the two giants in front of him. However, it was very clear in the hearts of all the people present that this seemingly small body contained enough power to make them tremble. Even if it was as strong as the great ape in the sky, he had lost his temper in front of Xiao Yang. Giant elephant. With a low drink in his heart, the golden light suddenly burst out from Xiao Yang's body. In a twinkling of an eye, it condensed into a huge golden body, standing between the broken walls. The tall body immediately eliminated the sense of falling at the previous moment. Immediately, the huge golden palm was gently placed on the top of the blood flame bird's head and grabbed the handful of golden feathers. Even at this moment, the bunch of feathers still exuded golden light and looked particularly noble. Finally, will you show us the way, or do you want me to pull out your feathers? Xiao Yang spoke again. His tone was deliberately aggravated, which made the threat very strong. If he can, he will not really pull out the feathers of the blood flame bird. The Liu family can feed and drink the blood flame bird for free for many years. There is definitely no reason. If he really pulls out the feathers of the blood flame bird, I'm afraid Liu Ya will change his face immediately. Indeed, seeing Xiao Yang put his hand on Liu Ya on the head of the blood flame bird at the moment, the source gas in the cyclone in his body also quietly flows. His eyes are staring at the action in Xiao Yang's hand, but he still bites it when he has reached his mouth. He also hopes that Xiao Yang's words are just a threat, not really going to do it. Otherwise, even if Xiao Yang gives him more lingsha, he's afraid he can only intercept it. You! Dare you? After gasping for a long time, the blood flame bird spit out a sentence with a heavy voice. Hihi, I dare not. You'll know if you try. In this regard, Xiao Yang joked and smiled. His huge golden palm exerted a little force, and the bunch of golden feathers were held in the palm of his hand. The skin on the top of the blood flame bird was immediately picked up, and a burst of tearing pain immediately made the blood flame bird wake up. At this moment, if Xiao Yang makes another effort, this bunch of feathers will be pulled off. You. No, you can't pull my feathers. You can't pull them out, if you. Are you willing to take us to the far south? Aware that Xiao Yang really wanted to pull out his feather crown, the blood flame bird was frightened. This feather crown was a symbol of dignity for his blood flame bird family. If Xiao Yang pulled it out, it would be no different from trampling on his dignity. He could not bear it. When he was anxious, Xiao Yang's strength increased slightly, and Liu Ya's old face became nervous. The blood flame bird was very impatient, but when he was still hesitating, he suddenly noticed the focus of Xiao Yang's words. Far south. The place where Xiao Yang and his party are going is far south. A thought flashed in his heart like lightning, and then the bloody flame bird, who was still struggling, loudly agreed to Xiao Yang's request. Okay. I promise you, I'll take you to the far south. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang finally showed a satisfied smile on his face, and his heart was also relieved for this. Who knows, at the moment, a few drops of sweat have also emerged on his forehead shrouded in golden light. At this moment, if the blood flame bird still didn't want to give in, Xiao Yang and others had to change to other flying animals, but fortunately, he finally got the answer he wanted. After Xiao Yang took back his palm, Tongtian giant ape threw out the blood flame bird in his hand. At the same time, the source gas running between the meridians in Liu Ya gradually converged back, and the tension in his heart relaxed. Although he is also a dissolute man, everything is clear. If Xiao Yang's practice will touch the interests of his Liu family, he won't pay attention to the identity and means of the young man, but fortunately, Xiao Yang didn't let him do that step. After solving the problem of flying animals, Xiao Yang turned his eyes back to Liu Ya and others. He paused slightly on Liu Ya, and Xiao Yang smiled at the latter. With his perception, he was naturally aware of the change of source qi in Liu Ya's body. However, at this point, other nature is no longer important. Everybody, get ready to go. Although the blood flame bird was beaten by Xiao Yang, those were only skin injuries and did not cause too much trauma to the blood flame bird's body. Therefore, after the blood flame bird agreed to Xiao Yang's request, the group did not stop too much, jumped on the back of the blood flame bird one after another, and set off again after saying hello to Liu Ya. Alas! Looking at the direction where Xiao Yang and others left, Liu Yue finally sighed. After all, nothing happened. If that guy had an accident, he really can't explain to his father. Recalling the scenes that looked very thrilling before, Liu Yue's heart was also a palpitation. Lao Zhu, this Xiao Yang. It's not a simple role. Look at his previous moves, both speed and strength are above me. He is young, but he has such terrible combat power. Hey, I've never heard of such a person in the southern region before. Liu Changsheng was surprised when he heard his ancestors' evaluation of Xiao Yang. He didn't expect that Xiao Yang's combat power would be so strong. Even his ancestors claimed that they were not opponents. But in that case, why didn't Lao Zhu let our family have more contact with him? Since he is facing a genius with such terrible cultivation talent and combat power, ordinary forces will try to make friends with him. However, before that, Liu Yue warned Liu Changsheng not to contact him too much. Even in the matter of Blood Flame Bird, Liu Yue was reluctant at first. I know you're doing this for the good of the family, but just because the boy's talent is too dazzling, it's more necessary for the Liu family to keep a distance from him. You should understand that he is facing more than Haiyun Palace. As far as I know, there seems to be a big hand behind Fu Yulong. Otherwise, with the strength of Haiyun Palace what is expanding wantonly on the southwest border, the so-called strong returnees will never be lacking on this continent. In the void, Liu Yue's eyes narrowed, and there was a helpless color in the depths of his turbid old eyes. Xiao Yang's talent is lovely, but before he really grows up, he doesn't dare to bet on the future of the Liu family. Well, go back. Yu turned around and Liu Yue wanted to leave, but when he looked around, he saw the canyon and mountain below that had been destroyed into ruins, and the look on his old face was suddenly dull. The canyon has been managed by Liu's ancestors for hundreds of years before it becomes its present appearance. However, Xiao Yang and his party have turned all this into ruins in a short video. This. Liu Yue's old face couldn't help but smoke. After a good film was carved, he suddenly turned back and shouted, "Hurry up. Get back to me and ask him to lose money." The roar was like thunder, but unfortunately, people had already left. It was too late to chase again at this time. In a twinkling of an eye, 2 days have passed since he left Lukangcheng that day. With the Blood Flame Bird as a flying beast, Xiao Yang and others are relaxed and comfortable along the way. Taking the warcraft at the later stage of Huayuan territory as a flying beast is a big deal. In this southern region, few people can be treated like this except a few big forces. Therefore, when Xiao Yang and others passed by some large cities along the way, they also attracted the attention of many strong people. If Xiao Yang hadn't urged the Blood Flame Bird to leave quickly, I'm afraid it's inevitable for a while. At this moment, the Blood Flame Bird was spreading its wide wings and flying forward leisurely on the cloud. The wings trembled slightly from time to time, and the speed of flying forward was accelerated sharply. Xiao Yang was sitting on the back of the Blood Flame Bird with his eyes closed. With the help of this short time, he practiced slowly. The whistling wind sounded in his ears, but Xiao Yang didn't hear it. Although the oncoming vigorous wind was particularly strong, from beginning to end, even the black robe Xiao Yang wore didn't blow a penny. At this time, Xiao Yang looked like a statue. If it weren't for the slight breath between his nose, it would be difficult to detect. On one side, the little medical fairy is also fully engaged in cultivation and trying to improve her cultivation. Since Xiao Yang brought him back to the mountain forest last time, the little medical fairy has been practicing harder. Her diligence even makes people feel pity, and she hopes to use all her time to improve her accomplishments so as to help Xiao Yang. Although she now has the puppet Xiao Yang gave her, Xiao Yixian also clearly understands that the puppet is an external thing after all, and doesn't have enough strength. Even the puppet can't protect her. This point, the Tian brothers killed by Xiao Yang have perfectly demonstrated the truth to them. But among these people at this time, the most leisurely is Luo Jin. Because of his special skills, almost all of his strength comes from natural materials and earth treasures. The way to obtain strength by relying on ordinary cultivation is much slower than ordinary people. Therefore, instead of doing that boring thing, he is more willing to enjoy the landscape of heaven and earth. At the same time, in Luo Jin's mind, a person will appear from time to time. A frown and a smile, even if it was just a chance, made him unforgettable. Standing in front of the crowd, Luo Jin turned and looked at the huge pure white clouds in the distance. The thick clouds seemed like a mountain. Unconsciously, the thick white clouds like a mountain turned into a beautiful white face. Looking at the distant white clouds, Luo Jin's face showed a silly smile, but a slight energy explosion suddenly came into his ears. As the sound and breath of the energy fluctuation gradually approached, Xiao Yang, Ju Tai and others opened their eyes one after another. When they looked up, Xiao Yang saw Luo Jin's silly smile, looked a little stunned, and couldn't help showing a strange color on his face. "Why, is this good stupid by the wind?" jokingly smiled and scolded. Several people behind Xiao Yang immediately laughed. Only the little medical fairy stared at Luo Jin and thought deeply. "There seems to be an accident ahead, big guy. Fly slowly and try to bypass them." Xiao Yang had already seen such a sudden situation on the road. Naturally, he ignored the need. He reminded the blood flame bird and looked up at the front, ready to bypass the war zone in front. Boom, boom. The closer he was, the more obvious the collision sound in the sky ahead was. At the same time, a burst of sneer and angry scolding came into the ears of Xiao Yang and others. However, when Luo Jin heard the sound on the first day of the new year, he suddenly became nervous on his face, and the source gas in the cyclone in his body was also mentioned.